Hello. How's you guys doing today?
Very well, thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you all.
Oliver. You guys are in beautiful London today. That's exciting. Any news from the big? It's not Big Apple, is it? Big Ben, maybe.
I'm actually 2 hours down the road, so I can't give any news myself.
Okay.
I'm in the
UK. Well, it's quite like the sun is shining, everything is good, so you get the best of London out there.
Oh, that's lucky. That's it seems odd for sun to be shining in London, right?
I guess.
Pretty rare.
Fantastic. Well, I'd tell you what the weather is here, but I feel like that'd be gloating at this point, so probably shouldn't.
You can let everyone else know.
I mean, Spain's terrible this time of year. Nice.
I don't believe it.
It looks like we got some people coming in here. Welcome. If you guys are joining, you can drop in the comments where you're joining from. Like we said, we got some teams in the UK. I'm in Spain. Who else we have joining in from? No? Shy? That's okay. Fantastic. Oh, man. One crazy thing, I don't know if you guys know about this festival called Fies here in Spain. It just ended, thank goodness. But apparently it's just like government sanctioned explosives for a month. And they set them off in this town square here. And legally speaking, you have to be at least 2 kilometers away from any population in order to set off explosions this big. But because it's a UNESCO heritage activity or a cultural event, they just make an exception. And so you have these massive explosions going off and just people partying all around. It's wild. It's pretty crazy.
Perfect for a webinar in the background.
Right?
I might have like a bit of sound disruption, probably, because of the construction works happening somewhere outside. It's not really close to fireworks, but if something like this happens, I'm so sorry.
No, I mean, it's over now, so it should be fine. I don't think you'll have, any big booms coming in from our side.
Hope not. Hope they're not blowing things up.
What about you, Oliver? What's going on 2 kilometers south of London? Any mass explosions happening?
No mass explosions from what I can see today. All pretty quiet this side.
Perfect. That makes sense. Yeah. Fantastic. So yeah, just to kind of get the ball rolling here. I know we have some people joining, some people are still coming in. But to give you an example, just some backstory, we have a lot to talk about today. So I know you guys will probably have questions and stuff like that, but we've limited the questions we're going to try and answer to the ones that some of you have submitted earlier. But please don't let that discourage you from leaving questions in the comments or in the chat or anything like that, because we're going to try and get to them after the webinar and answer as many as we can just via email and stuff like that. And then, so my name is Nigel Ledbetter, and I am an account manager here at Magebit. I've been with Magebit, I guess it's coming up on a year now. Crazy how time flies. Luckily, I have great teammates like Kalvis here, who is also an account manager at Magebit and is our in-house Shopify guru. And then Oliver is generously donating his time to be with us today, and he's a senior partners manager over at Shopify. Welcome, guys, and thank you so much. It's a pleasure to kind of work together again. So
Absolutely. Happy and excited to be here.
A little bit of history about Magebit. We actually started 10 years ago. We opened our doors, and we were a Magento specialist agency at first. And of course, as the e-commerce world exploded and more and more platforms popped up and grew, we became a full service e-commerce agency. So now we do everything from BigCommerce, Shopify and then of course we still do Magento as well. And over those years, obviously we weren't the only ones getting bigger and better. Shopify has grown incredibly, and recently they've invested a ton of money in their platform, making it already even better than it was. And as a Canadian, Shopify has always had a special place in my heart. So I'm very excited to share with you guys today why Shopify is making heads turn again. More specifically, we're going to talk about what's new with Shopify B2B. Pricing and checkout, fulfillment, global expansion, and more. So yeah, let's kind of jump right in here. So just to start us off, Oliver, maybe you can give us a quick rundown. What's changed in Shopify B2B in the last year?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, thanks, Nigel, and great to see everybody, and thanks for joining us today. In terms of Shopify B2B, product-wise, it was launched as a product itself around 2022. And from there, we've seen real kind of exponential growth in that segment. So in terms of the volume of features that are available out of the box with the B2B product, you're looking at over 4 dozen. So a number of those are outlined on your screen. Just a few. Just a few. So you've got those outlined on your screen there. So I'm not going to sit here and read them all out. But in terms of where we see the growth, I mean, we're looking at the existing B2B market, and there's a lot of legacy players. And in general, we see that the B2B technology is slightly behind the curve. And in traditional Shopify style, we think it's ripe for innovation. So
Nice.
We've spent a lot of time, money, and effort in building out the B2B product over the last few years. And we've won a lot of customers as a result in the space. So
I mean, that makes sense.
Look at
Yeah.
Winter 24. Yeah, absolutely.
You guys have always been, on the cutting edge of innovation and stuff like that when it comes to pumping out new products. And some people out there are kind of suggesting that the Shopify B2B element is, just B2C with add-ons. What would you say? I'm not saying that, of course, but
yeah, I mean, I can completely understand. It's definitely not the first time I've heard that. And I think historically, Shopify has always had a really strong foothold in D2C, SMB.
Sure.
And in terms of what we need to do, we need to change that market perception. I think if we look especially at the last 24, 48 months, that perception is definitely changing. But the B2B product itself, those B2B features are integrated into the core of the platform. So we mentioned those kind of 4 dozen features. That is not just a bolt-on to the D2C product. So Shopify's architecture includes dedicated B2B elements for both the front end and the back end. And that also includes B2B specific storefronts and APIs. I mean, with that being said, we still can benefit from that D2C side as well, because you can run both the B2B and the D2C in the kind of a hybrid way. So D2C is important to us, of course it is, but that's not to say there's not a huge focus on that B2B product as well.
It's funny you mentioned the perspective thing. It's almost like one of those things where you guys are a victim of your own success. You do B2C so well for so long, and then you roll out B2B and be like, are you sure?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%.
Fair enough. So, Kalvis, so, we talked to, a lot of potential clients, and when is Shopify B2B, the best fit, for them? When do we like to recommend that as a solution?
Well, if a business is growing their wholesale operations in general, and they're willing to have like this flexibility to manage some of the content, visual, written, or the structure of it much more easily, then you're at the right place. In addition to it all, you are getting complex pricing and discount editing tools in Shopify in general, like volume pricing, for example. Businesses can implement quantity-based discounts, encouraging larger orders, and of course, keeping in mind the conversion rate optimization tools in general, or using themes out of Shopify theme store, and basically add the visual aspect to the business B2B playing field, if I may say so, and not forget about like payment terms, which obviously comes in handy in business to business, like setting options for net 30 or net 60, making like several integrations or automations with additional tools like NetSuite or Sage or Microsoft Dynamics. The same goes with workflow automations. That's also becoming a sort of a buzzword. We're trying to automate a lot of different things, not only for B2C, but always looking forward for B2B automations as well, to make our lives easier and to make the overall scalability much more easier. That would be a really good fit.
Yeah. It almost sounds like, when clients or merchants are ready to take that next step into a more complex and robust business model kind of thing.
Yeah, and don't forget that you're at some point thinking about scalability and growth, even if you're there are ups and downs, obviously, in every business. So you're constantly thinking how we can potentially make the product or service even better. And this is a perfect place to be if you want to scale and look for different opportunities. Like with fun fact, with Shopify App Store, they have more than 8,000 apps in there available.
That's it? That's it? That's not enough. That's
one. So you have plenty of opportunities in there.
You got a few options. Yeah,
if you don't find the tools out of the box.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so let's say that we have some merchants that want to jump on this B2B. Oliver, how much on average does it cost to run a Shopify B2B storefront?
Yeah, sure. So Shopify's B2B is part of the Shopify Plus plan as standard. So people might be aware of the different plans that we run here at Shopify. That top tier plan, so Shopify Plus, includes B2B as standard. So pricing wise, you're looking at starting at around 2.3 thousand USD per month. But it is worth noting there can be variable fees based on GMV and size of business and scale of business. So if you want to know more, we need to know more about you guys. So in that instance, reach out to the guys at Magebit, and then we can go through and discuss exactly what it looks like for your business.
Perfect. Yeah, I know that makes sense. And thanks for the plug there. I appreciate it. So if we're looking at pricing from the merchant's perspective, then when it comes to merchants pricing their own products, some would argue that B2B is more complicated. How does Shopify handle that, Kalvis? Like, for potentially, could I as a merchant offer different prices to different customers if I wanted to?
Yes, I mentioned like some of it. Like you can do custom pricing and discounts, but diving deeper into it, like there will be tiered pricing and quantity break option. For example, if I'm purchasing 10 units, I can get a 10% discount. If I'm purchasing more than that, let's say 50, I'm getting 20% discount, etc. In regards of customer-specific pricing, for example, you can create specific catalogs for each of the segments of customers you have, and allocating like different prices for them, depending on really with whom you are actually working with. If they are a distributor, you can get like different pricing for them. If they're like smaller type of vendor, maybe grabbing some supplies from you, who knows, you can get like different rules for them. And the same goes with draft orders, and you can actually lock the pricing as well.
Oh,
So that's a cool thing that you can have also with Shopify.
Yeah, the catalog sounds really interesting, in being able to just generate set prices for different buying groups. That was something that kind of jumped out at me when you mentioned that as being a really useful tool for merchants. But of course, setting the pricing, that's one half the battle, and having them purchase that. The fulfillment obviously is a whole different beast altogether. So with Shopify B2B, Oliver, assuming I have warehouses in several parts of the country, and I need to fulfill to multiple locations, does Shopify facilitate an efficient solution to that that potential rat's nest of logistical information?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of the Shopify platform and B2B platform, we include inventory and fulfillment management within the shipping and logistics section of the backend. So from there, you're able to view inventory in real time across your warehouses, physical retail locations, all from a single dashboard.
Oh wow, that
If that's
sounds
not
super
enough,
useful. Yeah,
super useful. If
that's
that's not enough for any reason, you can extend that functionality integrations into PIM or ERP. Again, we mentioned the App Store earlier and the extensibility that lies within it. There's
yeah.
plenty of options to extend from there as well.
That's super useful, just having all the inventory locations from one dashboard, I would imagine.
Very
Just,
useful.
taking the mystery out of all that stuff. And correct me if I'm wrong, Kalvis, but I think we have some of our partners that have already kind of implemented this, using this dashboard that Oliver just mentioned. Have they experienced any issues with inventory syncing or anything like that?
Well, we need to define issues then. I guess.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Sorry, anything that's caused any major headaches.
Major headaches. It's a tough one. I don't see that there's like a headache at all.
Okay.
Well, the inventory is visible through every channel that you have, or you potentially will have at some point on your e-commerce store. Is it B2B or B2C? From online stores, physical stores, even warehouses, which you can like set up several ones.
Oh, okay.
And it's all connected and in real life. So meaning if there is sales going on, you can see them. And obviously with applications, you can even extend it if the out-of-the-box functionality doesn't ring the bell, or you need something more specific to it. You can use solutions like SkuNex for custom sync rules, set them up and see if that works for you. And obviously it's all integratable with ERP systems and etc.
Nice.
So if we're talking if there are any issues whatsoever, well then probably you're missing some of the bits. So you can look into apps and see if they are fixing your issue.
I see what you're saying, right? Like, it doesn't matter, what potential headache might come up. There's an app for that. Shopify is just basically taking that slogan and really taking it to heart. There's an app for that. Perfect. Nice. So does Shopify maybe help with the carriers, like negotiating rates, with shipping carriers and stuff like that, Oliver? Do they get involved with any of that kind of stuff at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're definitely ringing the bell for the App Store at the moment in this period of the webinar.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, I mean, in terms of the carriers, we've got numerous different applications with different carriers, DHL, UPS, those guys. Those integrations already exist within the App Store. So
Okay.
if you have those relationships, you can surface the carrier calculated rates and pass on those fees directly from the carrier to the merchant at checkout. Or alternatively, if you're in a situation where the merchant has a negotiated rate with a preferential carrier, then you can utilize that instead and not surface those carriers that you don't want to work with.
Oh, interesting. So your negotiated rate will automatically transfer over instead of having to do that manually.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. That sounds very useful. So, so I think one of the big things that a lot of our clients and customers are thinking about, especially, that's kind of feeding into the whole idea that B2B is just B2C with add-ons that we talked about earlier, is the idea that, do I need to have two stores now if I want to be able to sell B2B and B2C? So, Kalvis, maybe you can kind of speak to that and what you've seen with our clients, and just based on your experience. If I wanted to sell as a merchant, if I want to start a B2B as well, would I have to build a whole new storefront to do that?
Not necessarily. There is a hybrid store mode available. Maybe it's a secret, but there's no cheat codes.
The
You
secret
can
hybrid store mode.
well, yes, you can use it for B2C and B2B. Basically, you have simplified management of all the inventory, all the analytics, orders, etc. Meaning you don't have like two separate instances doing the same thing and then trying to put it all together and figure out, am I actually profitable or not? The same goes obviously for stock. Content is a thing, especially with this hybrid store, that you can reuse it on both of them. So they're basically it's in the same place, and you can save time on just recreating flows for, let's say, some sort of a landing page for a specific product. Just explaining better in simpler terms, and then copy paste it with another product where some similarities could, with something come up.
Yeah.
You can copy paste and move forward much more easily and much more faster. Test hypotheses and see if that works or not.
Very cool. So it's
In some sense, you could also have separate stores, but then it probably will happen if there is like much more complicated or customized approach for B2B,
right.
then it would make sense to have separate stores. It would be much more easier to manage and overall like update.
I see what you're
Yeah.
saying. Yeah. If you have either the B2C or the B2B version of that business is going to require a lot more customization and a lot more, specific functionality, then it might be worth investing into a second storefront. But typically, you wouldn't need to do that. You could run a hybrid version.
Yeah. Well, yeah, basically, yes.
Basically. Thanks.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, again, if there will be a specific advanced B2B features like workflows or some sort of detailed pricing structures, which only would fit for B2B and not really fit for B2C, then probably makes sense to separate them.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Cool. And then speaking of, complexity and trying to meet certain functionality and stuff like that, how does Shopify comply with the European Accessibility Act?
Oh, that's a good question.
For all our friends that are watching right now that are in the US and want to come over the pond to us.
For a while now, in United States, this American with Disabilities Act is really gaining attraction, and now European Union is doing practically the same thing, only with European standards.
Of course. Yeah.
But if you're talking, if Shopify is compliant, so the short answer is yes, but to a point, meaning for the majority of the themes that are currently on Shopify Theme Marketplace, they are compliant, but there are some restrictions to them. Like obviously, the content isn't actually controlled by Shopify, so you need to make sure that the content you're displaying on your website, for example, we're opening up some sort of website, and usually what we see for 80% of the time is a big slider, right? So in this slider, there could be an image with already let's say integrated text in it, and it's not really compliant with WCAG ADA or European Accessibility Act. So in that sense, that text should be extracted from the image and put as an H1 from
Right.
Shopify's perspective, for example, in a page builder. And it's not a hard thing to do, and you can have plenty of customizability to place it where it should be, so it's not interacting in a wrong way with the image itself or with the marketing material you're trying to show,
Right.
like product, for example. In that sense, you need to like figure out what sort of things you can and you cannot do. So these guidelines are widely accessible. They're constantly updated, so you need to track them. And to easier do that, again, there's an app for that.
Perfect. Great.
If not following, the overall guidelines is your thing, you can use something like Accessibility Spark, or I think there was Accessibly.
Okay.
Yeah, but
So it sounds like
keep
from
it
what
up
you're
with
saying
other
then that
functionality.
Shopify makes it easy to accommodate your site to these standards, but because
Yeah.
all the sites are so customized and different, obviously everyone's got their own brand, their own messaging, all that kind of stuff. A lot of the onus lies with the merchants, and they have to, make sure
Mhm.
that their content is up to standards as well. But when they need to make the changes, Shopify makes making those changes very easy.
Yeah. In short, yes, Shopify basically provides the foundational tools for accessibility, but leaves some of the responsibility also for the
Yeah,
merchants
I mean that's
themselves.
fair too.
And
Otherwise, you'd end up with an internet full of the
well,
same
yeah.
sites, right? um, and then does Shopify handle things like, in the US there's the tax, and in Europe we call it VAT, GST, and tax exemptions for global markets, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. You want a short answer or a longer one?
maybe just do a short answer on this one. Because
Short
as
answer
much
is
as I'd love
yes.
to talk about taxes all afternoon, and I'm sure everyone else listening is going to be super excited about that too.
In short, yes. Shopify is covering B2C and B2B taxes, GST, global tax settings, etc. for basically worldwide. The same goes with tax overrides. The same goes for customer-specific exemptions that can be controlled in settings area and also in markets. So if we are selling products or goods in general in global market, then obviously you can set each of the markets VATs and regulations that need to be there, either for like services or like physical goods, etc. Obviously, being compliant with European Union's tax laws and US as well.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, I think that's such a broad topic. We might have to do our own another webinar just to talk about the taxes and
I
stuff
think
like
I
that when you're
missed
entering
one
new
thing
market.
though. I think
Okay.
I missed one
All right.
thing, and the thing is, well, Shopify helps you with taxes in general. They're providing tools that you need, but still, please consult with the accountants and somebody who's
Sure.
actually
Yeah,
more
that's
knowledgeable
fair.
in it and keep everything where it should be, how it
Yeah.
should be. It's
Yeah, I'm assuming
Shopify.
Oliver Shopify takes no responsibility for incorrect
No,
tax
no.
filing.
Well, at least not now. Maybe that's somewhere in the future, and Oliver can share it for us. That would
Yeah.
be awesome.
That'd be a great app, right? Like, why
Yeah.
don't
I
we
think
have that?
that would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
If
not
that's fair.
yet.
Yeah, fair enough.
Sometime in the roadmap.
Yeah, exactly right. It's okay, last question for you, Kalvis, before we go back to Oliver here. So, we got a customer who's super excited about Shopify B2B. They're ready to move forward. What kind of hosting options are they looking at? Because especially for Magento customers moving over to Shopify, Magento, we have to find our own hosting solutions and stuff like that.
Well, again, short answer is it's self-hosted. It's software as a service, so you don't need to think about it ever. Actually,
So it's the same way in the Shopify B2C in that sense. Like it's
yeah,
the same
yeah,
kind of
exactly the same.
service and experience.
Exactly the same. Obviously, with much more intention towards the scalability. So if there is a super successful ad campaign and there's hundreds of thousands pouring into your store, obviously it's not shutting down or slowing down, but it's managed by Shopify, so you don't need to think about about performance in general. Shopify is ensuring that the performance will be optimal. The same goes for scalability and
Amazing.
uptime.
Wow.
And it's still compliant with all the updates and everything. So basically, your security patches, like general updates, you don't need to think about them at all.
Nice. Yeah.
It's up. It's
So for all
updated.
those watching who are making their first million overnight in the next 2 weeks, don't worry about the traffic. Shopify's got you, right?
At the same time, I know for a fact that there's constantly asked question in regards of, can it go like headless? Obviously, yes, and you can bring the storefront like towards the AWS or Google Cloud or Azure. You can do that, keeping the functionality with the backend. You can use frameworks like React or Vue.js, and obviously Shopify is also providing a hydrogen environment, which is like the headless solution. If you're willing to dive deeper into much more customizations, and if you're willing to show your brand in a much more unique way, have this possibility to interact with it and still have some sort of a control if you're going into your hosting, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Not necessarily that you need to, but there is such possibilities as well.
Sure. Yeah. You're not limited. What you're trying to say, right? Nice. So all this that we've talked about so far, obviously is putting Shopify in a very positive light. And Oliver, that might be a reason why we're seeing a lot of big brands transition to Shopify. What started as, the idea that Shopify was meant for people wanting to sell snowboards out of cafes and stuff like that. And we're seeing these major brands suddenly jump on the platform. Are we seeing, them being impacted by having these massive catalogs of products? How are they maintaining those fast load times? I think, Kalvis talked a little bit about it, but maybe you can elaborate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously we have a huge volume of merchants on our platform. So we've got massive merchants joining us, but we have a huge volume of existing merchants as well. So that infrastructure has to be built for everybody who's already on our platform, as well as those
Right.
massive merchants with those huge catalogs as well. So in terms
Yeah, I
of
guess I didn't think about that. If you combine all the catalogs from all the merchants you have, that's also a massive catalog database.
there's a lot going on. And in terms of our infrastructure, it was independently verified that we're the fastest globally against our competitors.
Okay.
So, little flex.
Congratulations.
So on average, 1.8 times faster than the other platforms that we're seeing out there. And whilst we're talking about kind of speed and loading times, Shopify's checkout, another thing that we're always shouting about. And again, another thing that B2B platform leverages as well, because it still leverages that same checkout experience as the D2C platform.
Oh, fantastic. Nice.
Our winter editions in December 2024 saw that checkout get 50% faster than it already was. So there's just this constant development on how can we make pages faster, checkouts faster, because we know that every second counts when it comes down to conversions. So, a lot of people looking at speed alone.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that is a very hot topic these days. Even, when we're at the Adobe Summit, speed. Everyone's talking about speed these days, which is, it makes sense. Yeah, everyone wants things done now and faster and better. Yeah.
Yeah, 0.1 of a second, 0.2 of a second, whatever it is, whatever you can say.
Exactly, yeah. And just to kind of reiterate that, so you mentioned the checkout is available on B2B. Does that mean Shop Pay is also available on B2B? In the US, I think, right?
Yeah, let me double check that. I'll come back on that one. I don't want to say something out of turn.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. All right, cool. So, and then, yeah, Kalvis, we talked briefly about this because, the other major topic that was prevalent in a lot of the conferences that we've been to this year is obviously security. Like the rise of AI is making things a lot more difficult to verify. And so, what kind of security measures does Shopify take to protect against fraud, cyber attacks, data breaches, that kind of thing?
Well, let's say, if we're talking about fraud prevention in general, Shopify is providing, obviously, machine learning algorithms to analyze the orders for suspicious activity, and you can see them actually in the orders section. If you go into even in your B2C store or demo store, if you have one, and maybe you're playing around while we're talking, you can see that small bar underneath, and you can see if there is some sort of a risk provided by these algorithms. If this transaction probably is reaching some sort of yellow border, basically signaling that there might be something wrong with it. There's
Interesting.
card testing protection, obviously included. Also at the checkout, checking if the card is fraudulent or not, detecting proxies, and with Shopify Plus, there's also authorization rate optimization. Basically, again, machine learning optimizes transactions rates by analyzing payment data patterns. But if you're talking about global stuff, say, also one of the things that I have heard fairly recently in regards of distributed denial of service, or DDoS protection, and like, secure servers, obviously firewalls, and sort of a regular thing. So Shopify is working with Cloudflare to mitigate those risks as well. And obviously, from the previous topics that we discussed in regards to the updates and overall fluent operations for Shopify in general, is it B2B or B2C stores? Right. Those regular updates also come in handy, which you cannot,
of course,
underestimate, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's handy that, Shopify takes care of those updates on an automated basis. That's for sure. That's nice. So yeah, I guess, Oliver, we know that, Shopify has dumped a whole bunch of money into their B2B. Are we done? Like, is that it now, or is it gonna keep getting bigger?
I mean, I'd be very surprised if we decided to stop
Enough.
here. I mean, we don't share our roadmap publicly, so I can't tell you exactly what's coming as much as I would love to.
Like, we won't tell anybody, right? Everyone, no, we're all sworn to secrecy.
Yeah.
It's fine. Exactly.
Just between us.
There's no one watching.
But yeah, in terms of next release and next updates, I think I've referenced Editions a couple of times, and to be fair, I didn't actually explain what it was. So Editions is our biannual product update that Shopify makes a lot of noise about. So I'd imagine a lot of you have already seen it. If you haven't, you can go back and look at all of the different editions on the Shopify website. And you can see all of the different product and feature releases that we're releasing across the product. So we run, the last one went out in December 2024. So kind of looking every 6 months. So we're only probably a few months away from another big product update and a big product drop. So in 2024, on that last one we did, which is called the Boring Edition.
The Boring Edition?
Was
is it actually
maybe
called
a little bit less.
Yeah.
It was the Boring Edition. It was maybe a little bit less frilly, less AI and jazzy, and a bit more about, okay, how can we improve the little things that will have a huge impact on our merchants? And there was 150 updates. Of those, 15 were specific to B2B. I think, Kalvis, you mentioned earlier some of the differences and changes, improvements we made to draft orders, which we're using for quoting and invoicing. We launched branded customer login pages, B2B specific analytics. So that was only a few months ago. We were launching lots of new B2B features.
Yeah.
I would, if I was I was a betting man, I'd put some money on a few more B2B features coming our way in a couple of months' time in that next edition launch. So huge growth area for us as a business, for our partners, for our merchants. So continued investment is undoubtedly
really
what we
exciting.
see.
If we are
really
moving, if I may, that boring edition, I really loved the way how it was presented in regards of that old lamp TV with remote control. It was perfect, and you can have this fancy version or this sort of less version, which is also a quick overview, just without like UX UI elements, just overviewing what is exactly in the belly of the beast, and figure out if that's something that rings a bell for your business. Is it B2B or B2C, whatever. That is spectacular.
Yeah.
And,
it was really cool. Very much worth
waiting
having
for the
a look
next
at.
one. Maybe even more.
Maybe actually, this
Not
would be
long.
a good time to share with our audience here how they can, get access that event, the boring event. So, Kalvis, how did you attend it last year? Was it a virtual thing? Was it in person?
Unfortunately, it was virtual, remotely.
Okay, well, I mean that's fine.
Maybe this year.
So yeah, Oliver, do you know off the top of your head if they release like a link that you can attend or something like that? Is it a closed doors event that you have to buy tickets for?
So the Shopify editions is usually more of an kind of online launch. So there'll be loads of details that come out as and when the product release is dropped. I mean, you can go ahead now and search Shopify editions, and you'll get to a page which will show you all of the previous editions and all of the details around what was
perfect.
launched.
That makes things easy. Right on. Fantastic. So okay, so you made it clear that you're not going to give us any sneak peeks as to what's coming, and that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, as much as try and grease the wheels here, but that's okay. Maybe instead you can kind of share some insights from the top performing merchants that are using the B2B, and give us kind of some idea of what they're doing right, and maybe that'll help the merchants watching today as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the first port of call, obviously I've sent you to a few different websites today, but if you just search Shopify case studies, you're going to be able to find hundreds of different case studies on our website. So once you're on there, you can filter by the previous platform, so where they migrated from, their segment, their market, industry, whatever it may be, to get an idea of why other merchants are moving to Shopify. Like I said, there's hundreds on there.
Almost tailoring it to your own experience.
B2B specifically, yeah, exactly that. But if we're looking at B2B case studies, we have 34 on there as well. So B2B specific, you can still even dig a little bit deeper into finding somebody who has more of a similar use case to you. But the one we wanted to kind of talk about today is Carrier. So Carrier is super complex. They're providing kind of heating, ventilation, air conditioning products, and they turn over more than 20 billion per annum. So it's a bit of a beast. And they recently migrated to Shopify for their
That
B2B
sounds like
product.
a very smooth transition.
It's definitely a big one.
Just probably took a weekend, right, to get all that stuff, all that data moved over. Yeah,
something like that. But I mean, you kind of talk about speed and the ability to migrate quickly. One of the big reasons for them joining us was our ability to move more quickly than their incumbent in terms of launching new B2B e-commerce experiences. So previously, it was taking them 9 to 12 months. Once they migrated over to Shopify, 30 days. So they're cutting that time down massively to be able to launch new experiences for their merchants. Yeah, it's nuts. And as you'd expect, the knock-on effect of that is reduction in TCO, because again, when you're spending 9 to 12 months on building that, and you're building on antiquated architecture with a huge lift from a huge, massive team, it's going to cost a lot of money. So what we saw was a reduction in cost from 2 million down to 100K again per ecom
somebody got a
experience.
big
So
bonus that year, that's for sure.
whoever
Yeah.
made the choice, good work from that guy.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, so again, a huge win in terms of cost reduction. But the final point, which I think is really important, and it's not just about speed or talking about money, but it's actually just the business's focus itself. So Carrier, and again, I massively recommend jumping onto the website and having a look at that Carrier case study, because there's loads of great videos talking with the team directly when they speak about kind of why they migrated. And one of the big things was that they didn't want to become a technology company. They've got their own focus, they've got their own products, they've got their own customers and their customers' needs. Whilst they were having to manage their old e-commerce platform, they were having to basically become a technology company themselves. And by choosing Shopify, they were able to choose a platform that made their e-commerce life simple, or at least more straightforward than it was, but also chose a platform that would scale and develop with them, and know that Shopify is going to continue to innovate and bring the best features to them without them needing to go out and look and develop those systems themselves. So it was really choosing a platform for the long term, which would just allow them to grow and scale with us.
That makes so much sense, because it can be such a slippery slope, can it? When you start to grow as a business and you start needing different, SaaS solutions and stuff like that, before you know it, you're hiring more developers just to handle the SaaS, and your original business is kind of disappearing into the margins.
Yeah, 100%.
Great. Well, thank you so much. That's all we're gonna cover today. And before we jump into the questions, I just really want to say again, thank you, Kalvis. Thank you, Oliver, for taking time to answer the questions and to put up with my terrible jokes throughout the presentation. We got 3 questions that we want to cover today, and then again, for everyone listening and attending the webinar today, please throw in the chat any questions or leave comments on the Facebook posts or anything like that. Anywhere you find that you want to reach out to us, and we're going to try and answer as many as we can over the coming week here. So yeah, a lot of people, I'm sure, are gonna approach me and have approached me about this. Is okay, so you've said all the great things. What are some of the hidden costs of running a Shopify B2B store? So Kalvis, maybe you can talk to us a little bit about what those fees or costs look like.
Well, as far as I know, there aren't really hidden costs in general. Those hidden costs usually are generated by apps or basically subscriptions from different services that might be attached in one way or another to Shopify, and eating up your margins, basically increasing your total cost of ownership. It's not necessarily Shopify itself. It might be something else that is ruining your profits. So you might need to check up what's going on with this app. Why are we using this solution? How we are using it? Are we using one plan or another? Do we need it exactly to match something, or we can use out-of-the-box functionality from Shopify and figure out where we actually are losing money. So yeah, first, my action is telling me that I would first look into additional apps rather than Shopify, and then see from there. And some of the actual costs can be shown in the billing information in Shopify, so you can see exactly what are you paying for. So
that is super helpful.
In that perspective, it's transparent. But again, if there's like extra money is taken from your card, probably there's some other app outside the ecosystem that's costing you.
Right. Yeah. Some mystery app. I guess that's the darker side of there's an app for that, right? you might
Yeah,
just get a
in
little bit
some
too
way.
excited and be like, oh yeah, we can just get all these apps and it'll solve everything. And you're like, wait, do we actually need all that? Yeah.
Yeah, and there will probably be other questions as well. Why?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. And then obviously, we talked about when Shopify B2B is a good fit. And just to, be fair and to, be transparent, when would Shopify B2B not be a good fit for a company? And this one I kind of want to position to both you guys, if you don't mind, just to kind of get both your perspectives on this. So maybe Oliver, we can start with you, if that's okay.
Yeah. I guess there are obviously some instances, and I think as a team, we will always be transparent when our product isn't a good fit for a merchant. And I think it's always a conversation that has to be had. I don't think we would necessarily write anything off on day one at face value. I think there's discovery that has to go on to understand whether or not
Right.
it will work. But I know there has been situations in the past with B2B to C. So we've seen, like, I think pharmaceutical companies where there is an additional layer of complexity when it comes to kind of pricing structures and customer accounts that we've struggled with. But again, I'm not in product or in solutions, so I wouldn't want to write everything off. But that's definitely somewhere where we've seen some difficulty in the past.
Kalvis, how about you?
Well, it's a good question, actually. I think I have read somewhere that maybe for companies whose order contains 500 lines of something isn't really ticking a box for Shopify. That's something else. But overall, I would say that if there's, like, again, something similar to what Oliver said, so if there's like much more complex logic going on in the background, maybe in the front end as well, in a way, which has happened before. I have been in those conversations where there are like just too many moving parts. It's not probably Shopify. And in general terms, I would really ask why exactly it's like this.
Why does this need to be so
complicated? Shouldn't be as
complicated?
complicated, and probably can be made with Shopify.
Yeah.
Just with rethinking. Well, obviously, if it's not too big, then it's a hustle, and do you need to do it or not? But in general, I would ask, can it be simplified? Because simple solutions actually work. Keep it simple, and as much as you can, for as long as you can, and then you can use Shopify in general.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, I totally get that. I love what you mean. Like, Shopify may not be great if your solution is super complicated, but you should then ask yourself, does it need to be this complicated?
That's a logical question, I think.
It is. No, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. Yeah, I think, sometimes we end up building and building and building, and then we get to a place where, like, wait, why did they do this? It's great. Yeah.
That's a really tough question, even for business owners, just to understand if they're doing something.
No, that's fair. Yeah. And then last question, Oliver. Does Shopify B2B out of the box come with good performance?
Short answer, yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, again, I can understand why we're getting this kind of question. It's like, does this really all come out of the box as you claim it to? And I mentioned earlier, we've got those kind of 4 features. Again, this stuff is constantly being developed, and we're going to continue to build the product to be as good as it possibly can be out of the box. And I think some merchants, like we've kind of alluded to here, are like looking for complexity, and they're saying like, yeah, but could you really service us straight out of the box with this product as it is? And for the most part, we believe that we can. And as Kalvis mentioned, maybe it's that actually your operation needs to be simplified to some extent. But for the most part, the product as it comes out of the box will service the bulk of the needs for B2B merchants. where it doesn't service it today, we have the ability to extend via the App Store or custom development. And if it doesn't exist today, just given the growth that we've seen in this area, and I don't think I mentioned in terms of analyst reports, but the Forrester B2B Wave 2024, we were marked as a leader. In 2023, we weren't on the radar. So that growth trajectory we're seeing is just monumental. And that's off the back of product investments and feature releases. And we're going to continue to see those releases and updates to make the product even better than it is today, straight out of the box. And we're going to be able to service the needs of more and more B2B merchants, again, straight out of the box. So pretty confident that we can service the needs, but we're open to be challenged. Let's speak to the merchant. Let's understand what their requirements are, and let's see if we can make it work.
That's great. I love hearing that. So we have a little bit of time here. So the team's asked me to kind of pull some questions from our audience. I hope that's okay, Kalvis, Oliver. Hope you don't mind.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Fantastic. So I guess one of the main questions we're getting is, what's Magebit's experience with Shopify? What are some success stories that we could potentially share? And this one's for you, Kalvis, obviously. How are we doing? How do we like working with Shopify from the agency perspective?
Well, we are currently expanding Shopify accounts, case studies list, working with various businesses, both in B2B and B2C, in various markets, all across Europe, basically. In US, not so much, but we're still looking for them. And actually, we are working also with some of the payment gateways. That might happen at some point. I will not name names at this stage, but
it's too early. It's too
early for that. So in regards of experience, in short, we have some larger and smaller
eyebrows, some
with customized solutions, and even with not so customized as well, smaller companies that are currently trying to figure out their way in the market.
Great, nice. And then we have some interesting questions for you, Oliver. One of them is, how do you like working at Shopify? Is it a great place? Would you recommend other people to work at Shopify?
That is quite a unique question.
I know.
What I was expecting today. Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love it. I've been with the business for 6 months now, and I think the culture is very much of high growth. I mean, what you see with the product in terms of the intensity and the desire to be the best, and I think that kind of is transpired across all of the leadership team down to each employee. And again, for me, a big thing about working anywhere is to work around really talented people, and we definitely have a lot of those. So massively inspiring place to work. We also have over 4,000 developers. So when
4,000.
things need to be improved, they usually get done, which is maybe not what can be said for some other tech companies. I don't want to name names, but like certainly we have an abundance of resource in terms of our developers and talented developers as well. So products get shipped quickly, and the product quality is great. So again, for me, in a partnerships role, working with different partners who get to enjoy and use the Shopify platform for their merchants, I know that everyone's super happy with what it is that we're actually putting out there into the world. So
fantastic.
Yeah, great place to work. If you have the opportunity, then absolutely grab it with both hands.
That's fantastic. That's a great answer for something that's being recorded live. That's perfect. And then we have another question again for you all over here, is if merchants want to educate themselves on Shopify B2B, what would be the best resource or location to do that? And if you don't have an answer for that, I know that's kind of putting you on the spot, but that can be one that we include in the mail out after. But if you have anything that comes to mind right away, maybe they can get an answer from you.
Yeah, in terms of online resources, again, I think case studies are always a great starting point. Finding a merchant who is in a similar place or in a similar scenario to you and seeing what their motivation was. I mean, our case studies are very
Are they quite detailed?
kind of elaborate in terms of detailed in terms of what were the
Oh, okay.
reasons and then the metrics and numbers to actually book that to back that
That's
up.
super helpful.
We try and put a lot of focus into making sure that there's good case studies surfaced online. So I think that's a great starting point. I think in addition to that, they need to speak with Magebit and let's talk about their actual their in-depth requirements to really understand how Shopify could work for them. Because again, every scenario is different. So we want to make sure that we're putting together a proposition and a proposal that makes sense for
That's
that
fair.
merchant.
And then Kalvis, last kind of question we have for the audience before we close out here, guys, even though we're closing out a little bit early. Tips for working with Shopify projects from your experience, I guess.
Don't overcomplicate them.
I guess that is the current theme that we've kind of been talking about, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, I've been working with Shopify for the last 6 years. I actually started as a front-end developer, and I was trying my little beginner hands at first,
Nice.
with various landing pages for Shopify, and it was before Shopify 2.0 was released. So I saw the previous old version of Shopify, and now I see the next one, which is emerging, I think, by days. So in that aspect, when I was working with the old version and now working with the new version, the same pattern basically is highlighted. Businesses are trying to figure out some new nuance or new approach or something, and that usually in majority of the cases at first is complex. But once they're diving into this thought process, how we can make it simpler, how we can transfer the knowledge of our product or service to the customer in an easier way, basically Shopify is already having the tools out of the box from day one. Even if you're just a fresh startup, fresh out of YouTube videos, just looking about Shopify and its capabilities, or diving into, let's say, dev docs for Shopify, you can start out from day one and see that there's no need for complex solution. You can use the out-of-the-box features. Obviously, taking boxes for features that you actually need, taking a deeper dive into themes, and go for it. Conquest.
Love that. Fantastic. Cool. So thank you again, Kalvis, Oliver, for joining today. Super nice to talk to you guys. And thank you for everyone out there watching and patiently listening and learning. Again, submit your questions, throw in what you got. If you want to reach out to us afterwards to any questions about the presentation or any kind of B2B issues that we can help you with Shopify, or just to chat and learn more about Shopify in general, please do. We're always around, happy to have a conversation. So yeah, I hope everyone else has a great rest of their day today, and I hope to hear from many of you very soon.
And me as well, and probably Oliver as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, guys. All right, everyone. Have a great day and talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Thanks.